Coming up on Sports Night.
We preview this week's football game.
The men's and women's soccer team face off against Michigan and Michigan State.
And we poke around to learn more about fencing.
Welcome to Sports Night. I'm Andy Paden, joined alongside Emma Steinberg. Emma, we have a huge week of Northwestern Sports to catch up on, so why don't we just jump right into it?
Sports Night starts right now. Welcome back to Sports Night. Northwestern football had a bye week last week. How do you spend your time, Andy?
You know, I actually took the week to watch some of the other Big Ten teams, and let me tell you, Emma, those teams can put up some serious numbers.
Oh yeah, they can, Andy. And speaking of numbers, I have a brand new segment called Stat of the Week. It's no secret around the country that Ohio State's football program is much more glorified than Northwestern's. And when you compare them head to head, the numbers certainly back that up. Looking ahead to this Friday's matchup against the Buckeyes, my stat of the week is that the Buckeyes are 62-14 against the Cats. What's even crazier is that Northwestern's 62 losses against the Buckeyes are the most they've lost to any opponent. The Buckeyes also have a current win streak of 7 against the Cats since 2005, and their last win against the Buckeyes was a 33-27 victory in 2004. But now picture this. Those 33 points Northwestern scored in 2005 were the most they have ever scored against Ohio State, while State has scored 33 or more points against Northwestern 31 times. Coach Fitz has never beat Ohio State, so tune in tomorrow night at 7:30 to see if the Cats can break this streak or if the Buckeyes will go 63-14.
Joining me now here on the side studio is Peter Warren from the Daily Northwestern. Peter, thank you for being here today.
Always my pleasure to be here.
So, Peter, we have a big game this weekend. It's a Friday night game. We got Ohio State coming in, and this is the first time so it's the first time playing a top 5 team this season, and they have not beat a team in the top 3 in a really long time, right? What do you think is going to happen this weekend?
Well, it's obviously a very important matchup for Northwestern. I mean, they're 1-4 right now. They're obviously struggling. The bye week hopefully helps, but I mean, Ohio State's coming in, and they are one heck of a team. I mean, you met Justin Fields at quarterback, J.K. Dobbins at running back. The defense, I mean, Chase Young is one of the best players in the country. I mean, I expect it to be, hopefully, for Northwestern, a defensive battle to at least keep some of the fans who made the trek out on Friday night in the seats.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, honestly, you have to consider for this game, with Ohio State being so good and you look ahead on their schedule, they have Wisconsin next week, the 6th-ranked team in the nation. Do you think at all this could be a trap game?
That's actually a great point, Andy. I was thinking about that when I was sitting up here. I mean, Wisconsin is a great team. I mean, John Thaler is probably the best running back in the country. They have so many good players. I think it could be a trap game, especially Friday night. You know, you switch up the schedule a little bit. Sure. It's probably a different vibe from both of them probably coming in either today, Thursday, or tomorrow. I just think there's a lot of external factors that could really stumble Ohio State, or at least they're going to make it off to a slow start.
Sure. And now some big news for Northwestern. It's been reported that Hunter Johnson have practiced this week. He's been feeling pretty good. And on the starting sheet, it's listed as Aiden Smith and Hunter Johnson. So who do you think is going to start this week?
I think both quarterbacks will play, but I think in this situation against Ohio State, when it's all about they need some big plays. They need to try to make something happen. Aiden Smith is a lot less dynamic than Hunter Johnson at his potential. Sure. I think if you want to really try to win this game, I feel like you have to go with Hunter Johnson just for his big playability, the arm, or Aiden Smith. If you want to try to keep it close, maybe you go with Aiden, but I feel like Hunter Johnson, much more risk, obviously, but a lot more reward.
I absolutely agree with you completely. I think Hunter Johnson is definitely the way to go this weekend, but Aiden Smith has played in the past, so maybe he comes in a little later. We'll have to see. But also I want to switch sides now. So Ohio State, undefeated team, 3rd-ranked team in the country. Do you actually think this Buckeye team can make the college football playoff?
Oh, definitely. I mean, this team is, I mentioned a few of them earlier, but I mean, you're talking about talent on both sides. And, you know, they got a little bit, some people might say they got snubbed last year, you know, sitting out of the college football playoff. I mean, the thing is, they got a tough schedule. I mean, you mentioned Wisconsin, Penn State. I mean, they could face Wisconsin or even an undefeated Minnesota in a Big Ten championship game. It's no guarantee this team goes undefeated. But I think if they go undefeated, I think they're obviously in. If they lose one, say Wisconsin next week, or say Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game, I think you really have to consider them because in my estimation, they've been the best team in the country so far this year.
Sure. Past couple of years, the Big Ten hasn't got anyone. It's been 3 years since the last time a Big Ten team has been inside the college football playoff. So now, Peter, my last question for you. Can you give us one player to watch for on both sides, and can you give us a score prediction?
So I'll start off with Ohio State, and I think running back J.K. Dobbins is really a guy to look out for. I mean, he's number 2 in the country in rushing yards, and with Justin Fields being so much of a highlight machine, J.K. Dobbins, who for now his junior year, last year has been so good for Ohio State offense. I think people forget about him. He's going to be a real key. And then for Northwestern, I mentioned Chase Young earlier, the Ohio State defensive end, who's one of the best players in the country. Rashawn Slater, according to the injury report, is going to be good to go this week. So if he's back at left tackle and you move Gunnar Vogel back to right tackle, that whole offensive line, I'll mention Rashawn specifically because he is one of our best offensive linemen in a few years. Yeah. If he plays well, that's going to really help whoever's in that quarterback and who's ever in that running back and really help them have some room to make some plays.
Sure.
And you mentioned prediction, why not? Give me Northwestern 22-19 and a little bit of an upset. I feel like Friday night is just, there's so much that could go wrong for Ohio State. I feel like if Northwestern plays freely, I think they have a shot.
I like it. That's my kind of guy right there. Go Cats. So now, thanks for joining us, Peter. You can check more of his work on the Daily Northwestern. Thanks.
Thank you, Andy.
So there you have it with football, but SportsNight is just getting started with soccer, fencing, and field hockey. Stay tuned.
At Northwestern, we're Wildcats in every way.
Northwestern break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all the go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
At Northwestern University, we are pioneering innovation and achieving excellence across every imaginable discipline. At Northwestern University, the possibilities are endless.
Did you know that former standout Reggie Hearn for the Northwestern basketball team was just signed with the Los Angeles Lakers this week?
I actually did hear that, Andy, and I'm going to the men's basketball scrimmage tomorrow night.
Oh, that's cool. Why don't you tell us a little more about that?
Before the Cats take on the Buckeyes tomorrow night, Northwestern men's basketball is hosting a football pep rally and scrimmage in Welsh Ryan Arena. Fans can get their first look at the 2019-20 men's basketball team during this inter-squad scrimmage, during which the football team will make a post-game appearance. This is an exciting time coming up for Northwestern, with A.J. Turner and Anthony Gaines likely to run the court this year. Doors open at 4:30, admission is free, and early bird fans will receive vintage Wildcat crewneck sweatshirts, so don't be late.
With the NBA and China news heating up, we brought on our very own Albert Huang onto the desk to give us his perspective on the situation. So Albert, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So why don't you tell us what you think the situation is between the NBA and China?
So a lot of people have been saying that this is a free speech situation, but the way I see it, it's really a business decision. You see, NBA has 2.6 billion of TV revenue right now, and 300 million of that come from China. That's more than 10% of their revenue, but that's not the whole story. NBA is the third most popular sports league in America, and that's not going to change. Football and baseball have their place in popular culture and in America as a country. So the only way the NBA can achieve accelerated growth is to look overseas, and that's exactly what they have been doing. China's NBA operation has been valued at $4 billion, and NBA has always prided themselves for having this international exposure. So NBA really cannot afford to lose an opportunity for them to really, and also their only opportunity to become the most successful sports league in the world.
Sure. So now, how has campus and the international students interested in the NBA responded to this?
So this is an interesting qualifier because most of the international students I spoke to have no idea what's going on, which kind of shows that this is not an issue of national importance right now. Okay. So maybe not a civil rights movement will come out of that. However, of the people who do know what's going on, there are definitely some people who think that they definitely do deserve a free speech, and people can say whatever they want on Twitter without scrutinization from another government. However, there are people who are saying that maybe it's better for sports to stay away from politics.
Sure. Well, that's all we got for Albert. Albert, thanks so much for joining us. You can catch more of Albert here on Sports Night.
Our very own Ryan Coleman learned how to fence last week. Let's take a look.
Everyone knows about Walter's new indoor football facility, but did you know that the Northwestern women's fencing team uses it too? Justine Banbury, who's been involved in the sport since she was in 5th grade, enjoys playing for multiple reasons.
I was trying to find a new sport, and I tried it, like a class for fun, in the rec department of my town. And we just happened to have a really good club in my area, and I just kept doing it. I really like how mental the game is and how high intensity is in short spurts.
While it may not be the most well-known sport, Justine wants to make sure you know what it isn't.
Most people think it's sword fighting, clinging, blades back and forth, which is just really not true. I think if you came and watched, you would see that it's a lot more athletic than people think. You have to be really fast, you have to have really good footwork, and it's a lot more strategy than people think and realize.
Well, that certainly sounded interesting, so I asked for some pointers to learn more about the game.
Your feet in kind of like an L shape.
With
your right foot
okay.
Forward, yeah. So if you kind of want to get into normal shoulder width, whatever's comfortable. Yeah, a little bit more. You don't want to go too wide.
Yeah.
You obviously don't want to be too short, and then kind of in a stance like this. So a lot of people think you do this, but that'd be really weird. Don't do that. Yeah, you in the movies, they're yeah,
okay.
Nobody does that. So don't do that. You kind of can keep your other hand back here,
okay.
And then this hand would be out. So you're ready, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if you're gonna do some footwork, you would do step forward, step back. Yeah, this arm, just keep it chill right here. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
If you want to lunge, if you're gonna hit, you would do this, and then your back arm would go up.
So you lean,
Yeah,
lean
that was good. But don't slide your feet. Your feet stay.
So you always want the feet to be on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So if you lunge, you're not gonna move like that. You just lunge, and then you go back. Yeah.
Okay. So
That's
it's more
pretty
like a attack if you miss, retreat.
Yeah,
and
you want to be ready
defend.
for them. Yeah,
Okay.
defend. Yeah. That's kind of all I can show you. About your
While I may not be a fencing champion, I certainly enjoyed trying it out. The season starts in January, so you'll have to stay tuned. Maybe you can become a fencer yourself. For NNN Sports, this is Ryan Coleman.
Way too fast. So you're looking here, and you kind of.
The fencing team is back at it again this weekend in North American Cup in Kansas City, so be sure to check them out.
Women's soccer took on both Michigan and Michigan State this weekend. Let's see how they did. The Cats took on Michigan State on their home turf last weekend. Michigan State's Daniel Stevens passes to Paige Weber to put the Spartans up by 1 in the first half. This makes Weber's second goal of the season. Kylie Fisher then crosses into the box, and the Cats put up a fight until freshman Lily Gilbertson seals a goal to tie up the game. And the Cats love it. Finally, we have Olivia to Olivia, Stone to Korhonen, who heads the ball in for the Cats to win the game 2-1. Next up, the Cats took on the Wolverines at home. The Wolverines strike a shot from almost midfield, but goalie Mackenzie Wood blocks the ball to keep the game scoreless into the late second half. Goal by Michigan's Nikki Hernandez in the 88th minute. But just a few moments later, Northwestern draws a penalty, giving them the opportunity to force overtime. And they do with a goal by Michaela Hampton. In overtime, nothing went right for the Cats on the attack, and Michigan's Meredith Hackinson scores to win the game in the 97th minute.
After creeping into the top 5, the Wildcats hit a 2-game losing streak, including 1 unranked loss. But the now ranked 8th Wildcats had the opportunity to bounce back this weekend on the road as they faced Penn State and Rutgers. First, we're going to start it off here at University Park against the Penn State Nittany Lions. We have a pretty uneventful first half for you here. So we're going to start off the highlight in the second half when the Nittany Lions have a penalty corner. Penn State dodges defenders, and somehow Grace Wallace finds a way to put Penn State on the board with a tip-in to put Penn State up 1-0. Later in the third now, Northwestern's Kristen Connolly scoops it off a rebound shot, dribbles wide, and drives one in, tying it up, and also scoring her first goal on the season. It's 1-1. To start off the fourth quarter, Sarah DeBry comes in clutch and puts it in to give the Wildcats the 2-1 lead with just over 13 minutes left. But just when Northwestern fans thought that they had it in the bag, Penn State gets another penalty corner, and Megan Reese ties it up to send the game to overtime 2-2. Now in overtime, the Nittany Lions would be just too good as Anna Simmons would score on a reverse chip as Penn State upsets Northwestern 3-2. Let's see if the Cats can bounce back against 19th-ranked Rutgers after that tough loss in overtime. Late in the first, Wildcats' Kristen Conley had a penalty corner and finds Kristen Manfield for the goal to put Northwestern up 1-0. Now in the second, the Scarlet Knights' Kuno Austin puts in to tie the game at 1. But it wouldn't last long because just minutes later, Shannon Daly dribbles down the field and finds Sarah DeBry, who's able to put Northwestern back on top 2-1. But the Wildcats weren't done scoring as Maren Seidel puts in a beautiful scoop to extend the Cats' lead to 3-1. Then later in the fourth, Bente Bakker scores on a penalty stroke to seal the deal as the Cats win 4-1.
Stay tuned for volleyball, tennis, and golf, all up after the break.
At Northwestern, we're Wildcats in every way.
Northwestern break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all the go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
At Northwestern University, we are pioneering innovation and achieving excellence across every imaginable discipline. At Northwestern University, the possibilities are endless.
Welcome back to Sports Night. The Big Ten is easily one of the best volleyball conferences in the country. Am I right, Andy?
Definitely. And with the Cats having to face 17th ranked Purdue for the second time in the past week, it hasn't been any easier. Speaking of which, let's take a look at how they did. It's Dig Pink Night in Evanston as Shane Davis' squad welcomes in their opponent for the second straight week in the Welsh Ryan Arena. We're going to pick things up early here in the first set. Cats are scrambling. Nina Robinson goes up for the block, then is able to save it. But then look out. Temmie Thompson coming in from the back row and spikes it down. End of the first set. The front row deciding to hold themselves a block party. First one comes from Desiree Becker. Next one is a 2-for-1 special as Alara and Becker step up for another, but the Cats drop the first set 25-22. Quick spotlight here on the topspin serve from Thomas Alara. She gets an ace early in the first set. Then she picks up another in the second set, making the Boilermakers just look plain lost. On to the third set. Setter Kira McNulty reaches into her bags of tricks as she goes over to dump on two with the quick dump. Northwestern continued the battle late into the match, keeping the third set within reach as Purdue edged closer to the finish line, but ultimately the Boilermakers would prevail in straight sets, taking the third and final set 25-18.
Now we're joined by Zach Coons from WNUR Sports to fill us in on women's volleyball. Thanks for joining us today, Zach.
Thanks so much for having me.
So first, for those back home not as up to date on the women's volleyball team, give us a quick recap of the season so far.
Yeah, Emma, so this team really started off strong in non-conference play. They started off 9-3, pretty weak schedule on the whole, but some really quality wins. A 5-set thriller against Texas Tech, a really solid win against a solid MAC team in Miami of Ohio. But then they ran into the best conference in collegiate volleyball. They played 6 matches straight in the Big Ten, 4 of those against top 20 opponents. And unfortunately, I think they're going to look back on this year and really wish they had those wins against Indiana and Iowa, two matches where I really think Northwestern had a lot of potential to win, and I think they're going to look back on those and really wish they had them later on in the year.
So despite those losses, what players have stood out to you so far this season?
Yeah, I think the number one player we have to talk about is the first-year breakout, Temmie Thomas Alara. She's been incredible this year so far, 4.4 kills per set. That's the best mark in the Big Ten this year, which is almost unheard of for a first year. She's also helped out a lot on the back line by Lexi Pitsis, who really earned back her starting libero job after kind of losing it last year to Michelle Lee. And I think really the biggest question mark has to be at setter for this team. Kiara McNulty and Peyton Chang have been splitting reps. It seems like McNulty is the go-to moving forward, but really both players have had their fair share of struggles. If those setters can figure it out, get it back into rhythm with outside hitters like Nia Robinson, like Danielle Williams, then I think this team could be in good shape down the stretch.
And lastly, what are your predictions for the rest of the season moving forward?
I think this team still has a lot of potential to win matches later on. Obviously, the 0-6 start is not ideal, but a lot of easier opponents come up down the stretch for this team. They get to play Rutgers twice. They get to take on Ohio State and Maryland. So if they can win a couple of those matches, I would expect this team to maybe at the ceiling get up to 6 or 7 wins in the Big Ten. I think more realistically that's going to look like 5, but I think this team can take down anybody if they have the right kind of night. So that means the Minnesotas and Nebraskas of the world. It's all about this team just finally putting it together.
Thanks again for stopping by, Zach. Make sure to check out his content on WNURsports.com and catch him on the call for women's volleyball in the near future.
Looking to improve upon a second-place finish last week, the Northwestern men's golf team traveled to Carmel, Indiana to compete in the Crooked Stick Invitational. The Cats finished 15 over in the tournament, tying for third with Marquette, while Georgia and Vanderbilt finished first and second. On the individual side, sophomore David Nafar finished in the top 5 for the second consecutive tournament, while first years John Driscoll III and James Amai both finished in the top 25. The Invitational was the final tournament of the fall season, so the Cats won't return until next February when they start Big Ten match play in Palm Coast, Florida.
On the West Coast, the Northwestern women's golf team traveled to Palo Alto, California for the Stanford Intercollegiate this past weekend. The Cats struggled through most of the weekend, finishing tied for 11th out of 17 teams. First-year Irene Kim shot an even par on the final 2 days, good for her first career top 25 finish. Sophomore Kelly Sim finished tied for 26 after shooting 3 under on the final day. This concluded the fall season for the Cats, who play next in February in the Lady Puerto Rico Classic in San Luis Obispo, Puerto Rico.
Now don't move a muscle, because when we come right back, it's time for you to find out which plays did and didn't make our list for best plays of the week.
At Northwestern, we're Wildcats in every way.
Northwestern break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all to go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
At Northwestern University, we are pioneering innovation and achieving excellence across every imaginable discipline. At Northwestern University, the possibilities are endless.
Well, Emma, the show is coming to a close, and you know what that means. It's time for Plays of the Week. At number 3, we got field hockey. Kristen Connolly with the scoop and score for her first goal of the year.
At number 2, we got quite the team effort with 2 dives to save it and a spike home, but the Cats would fall to Purdue.
And your play of the week, the Olivia's Cornhone heads the ball in for the Cats to win the game 2-1. It's been a great week for Northwestern Sports, but that's all the time we have on Sports Night. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at NNN Sports and on Instagram at NNN_sports. Also be sure to check out our new and improved website at www.nntv.org. For Emma Steinberg, I'm Andy Paden. See you next Thursday right back on Sports Night. Good night.